Vine Deloria Jr. turned the spotlight on many popular science writers, including Stephen Jay Gould, Jared Diamond, Robert Ardrey, and Jacob Bronowski, and how they distill the great wisdom that science has created. He observes that science and scholars are notoriously obedient to the consensus opinions of their profession, which usually means they pay homage to the opinions of scholars and scientists who occupy the prestigious chairs of Ivy League institutions and large research universities, or even dead personalities of the past. He observes that newspaper accounts of scientific theories are presented as proven fact when they are just theories in a field dominated by orthodox doctrines. Vine Deloria Jr. was quoted in 1491, New Revelations of the Americas before Columbus. Archaeologists are trapped in their own prejudice. Vince Deloria Jr., the Colorado political scientist told me. To Deloria's way of thinking, not only overkill, but the entire Clovis First theory is a theoretical Rube Goldberg device. There's this perfect moment when the ice-free corridor magically appears just before the land bridge is covered by water, he said, and the Paleo-Indians who are doing fine in Siberia suddenly decide to sprint over to Alaska, and then they sprint through the corridor, which is just in time for them and has been replenished with game. And they keep sprinting so fast they overran the hemisphere even faster than the Europeans did, and he even thought they didn't, and even though they didn't have houses. He laughed, and these are the same people who say traditional origin tales are improbable. But the most interesting idea presented in Deloria's book was his concept of what we now refer to as, quote, global warming. His theory is that the prehistory time of the dinosaurs and their subsequent denials might be happening now. He counters the ideas of traditional academics with his ideas about gigantism. Giants appeared in many Native American legends, and one of them was located in the Midwest. Further back in antiquity were the legends of the Odawa inhabitants of the Waganakasing, which were recounted to the early European explorers about a race of giants. According to Perry Powers in his History of Northern Michigan and Its People, published almost 100 years ago, the evidence is strong in all the country northwest of the Ohio River that a race of men once inhabited the land who were powerful, warlike, and semi-civilized. The Indians found there by the first white incursionists, had traditions of a, quote, race of giants, swift of foot and powerful enough to kill a buffalo with their own hands. They were large and strong, continues one of their traditions, that they defied the Maker and derided him. The ruler tried to kill them by shooting arrows of lightning at him, but they glanced off without harm. So he sent a great rain, and the ground became so full of water and so soft that these heavy people sunk in it and were drowned. When Vine Deloria Jr. visited the Little Traverse Bay Band of Ottawa Indians, and as a guest of Frank Edwagishik in 2004, he told me that he planned to travel to southern Ohio afterwards to look at some remains just on Earth of prehistoric giant humans. He agreed with Donald Patton, who raised important questions about megafaunal size and the subsequent reduction to contemporary species. According to Vine Deloria Jr. in his article, Patton argues against the current theory that the Paleo-Indian hunters are responsible for the extermination of the loss of megafauna in the Western Hemisphere. He points out that legends about giants existed on all continents, often described as monsters. Patton links the giants with longevity in the Golden Age before the Ice Age. Then he posits the smaller versions of the same animal and plants now inhabit the Earth. He thinks that all of this changed when a comet came close to the Earth and precipitated the Ice Age. Patton suggests that the carbon dioxide was considerably higher in the atmosphere, thereby producing monstrous-sized dinosaurs. The corals and Petoskey stones found in northern Michigan would be a result of this time when about 50 to 70% of the biomass was buried, fossilized, and deposited in strata as tidal waves laid down immense beds of plant and animal matter. Deloria suggests that the question of new deposits of carbon dioxide since the Industrial Revolution are the current basis of growth in the human beings. He feels that the, quote, change of atmospheric condition, then, is a reasonable solution to question of gigantism and the demise of megafauna of the Pleistocene. In his use of native legends and traditions as historical texts, Deloria makes the following statement. It is possible to separate non-Western traditions from the mainstream of science and keep them comfortably lodged in the fiction classification because most of them contain references to the activities of the supernatural causes and personalities and are not phased in the sterile language of cause and effect, which has been the favorite language of secular science. It is unfair to do, however, that when scientific writers have complete license to make up scenarios of their own and which could not have taken place and pass them off as science, and therefore as superior to other traditions. Vine Deloria Jr. concludes in his book with a discussion of some topics that he feels should be reevaluated by both natives and non-natives. One of the foremost is creation. He illustrates his points from several creation stories and reiterates that, on the whole, Indian tribes faithful to their traditions understand the origin of life on our planet as creation. The stories may appear childish, but they do describe processes which may well parallel or describe segments of scenarios sometimes put forward by the scientists. Recently, in a tribal newsletter of the Little Traverse Bay Band of Ottawa Indians, a submission was made by a contributor who appeared only as a Waganakasing. The subscriber contributed tribal cultural information about the creation. This story as follows. The beginning of things. In the beginning, the only sound that could be heard throughout the throughout the vastness and magnitude of what is now called galaxies and universe, was the sound like beads in a rattle. In this creation story, I was told how the Creator brought forth the winged ones, creeping things, animals, the water creatures, the stars, sun, and moon, and every manner of flower, tree, and grass. When the Creator had finished this work, he admired the beauty of it all by sending out a thought expressing his feelings, and the thought returned unanswered. So he created a man and a woman in his image to share these beautiful things, and in the cool of the evening they would sit together and visit about the things they saw and felt each day. This Mother Earth was a garden so beautiful and perfect, and the Creator wanted men and women to be able to live in the midst of it all with the Creator. I gotta check on this cat. Excuse me. For a while, things went well. Man revered and was in awe, seeing every leaf and hearing every bird's song. Something drew his heart away until the sound of birds singing, the sight of an eagle in flight, and the bounty he lived in the midst of grew pale in his consciousness. His life fell out of balance and harmony with all life around him, and he began to act strangely. He was not satisfied with the world the Creator had given him, and he began a quest for a substitute. He wanted the Creator's blessing, and he began a quest for a substitute. He wanted the Creator's blessing, and even cited the things he was doing as being part of the Creator's will and purpose for bringing mankind into such a place. Soon the trees began disappearing, and the birds and the animals grew sick because of humankind's indifference to those original teachings. He began polluting everything he touched and seemed to be unable to perceive and understand what he was doing to his children and grandchildren, and eventually he did not care. We became enamored by the accrual of increase and looked to exploit any opportunity to turn a creative resource into an additional wealth for his pocket. The greatest danger and struggle we face and suffer is the loss of our spiritual sense of origin. We are the people of the lakes, the mountains, the woods, the plains, the snow, and the deserts. We can still see the sacred sites among the clutter. We still have these original sacred things the Creator gave us to worship with, and all the medicines to treat any sickness. We still have our language and our ceremonies. We still have the sweat lodge, pipe, and drum, and we have each other. We are called tribal because that is how we lived with each other. Yes, there's my story. And we did that because it is part of the Creator's plan for us. We were born into a natural, sacred origin and existence, and were given gifts from the Creator. We learned harmony and balance with life and all things around us. Some of the questions of the prehistory of northern Michigan fall into the three categories contained in this chapter. Some readers will adhere to the traditional Western scientific point of view, while others might find themselves looking at it from that of the global diffusionist outlook, which may appeal to lay people and is speculative. Others, after reading many Native American legends and Divine Deloria's book, may open their minds to a whole new way of thinking that encompasses many levels of understanding. Prehistory, like the history of the Odawa, is coming together like a vast puzzle.